Well, here we are. We're located at the Printers Row Book Fest, and we're in the same area or the same building where the author events are taking place. And we've set up a studio here in the corner, and we're now joined by best-selling author Scott Turow. His book, Presumed Innocent, is, of course, his best-known book, and he's just come out with this one. It's Innocent. Mr. Turow, welcome to Book TV. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Peter. I appreciate it.
Your books, your novels, are based in reality, yes?
Well, I guess an imagined reality, but it's certainly, they would be called realist fiction, yeah.
And where do you get that, the reality part of it?
Well, you know, I put myself as an author in that sort of long Chicago sort of meat and potatoes realist tradition going all the way back to Dreiser and Farrell and Saul Bellow. So I think that, you know, there's a certain kind of urban grittiness that's always been characteristic of fiction coming out of the city.
But you're also a lawyer.
I am a lawyer, and you know, I wanted to be a novelist. I was a writing fellow at Stanford for a number of years, and then rather than become an English professor, I went to law school, and I always say that going to law school was the great break of my literary career.
Who is Rusty Sabich?
Rusty Sabich was the hero of Presumed Innocent, probably best remembered now as the figure played by Harrison Ford in the movie of Presumed Innocent. He's now the chief judge of the appellate court in my imagined Kendall County. He's sort of worked for decades to put his life back together after being accused of murder. He's about to ascend to the state Supreme Court at the age of 60 and suddenly realizes that this is not going to make him happy.
And why do you call it Kendall County? Why not just call it Cook County?
You know, well, because it really wasn't Cook County to start. When I worked on Presumed Innocent while I was an assistant U.S. attorney here for 6 or 7 years, and I didn't want to get too close to reality, so I based the book originally in Boston. But so many of my Chicago experiences infiltrated that I had to, you know, call it something else, and I just chose Kendall County almost out of thin air, probably thinking of nearby Kendall County, but I wanted it to be an unnamed place in the Middle West.
Here's your chance to talk with Scott Turow. Numbers are up on the screen. 202 is the area code for all of our numbers. If you live in the East or Central time zones, 202-585-3885 is the number for you to call. 202-585-3886 if you live in the Mountain or Pacific time zones. Go ahead and start dialing in. Mr. Turow, you're also president of the Authors Guild for the second time.
I am.
And how do you, is this one going to be different than the first time you served as president of the Authors Guild, do you think, the issues?
As you know, Peter, the book business is a lot different today than it was even in 1997 when I briefly served as president of the Guild. So, yes, it's going to be quite different. The issues and the concerns are much different than they were in 1997. You know, I would just say, since Presumed Innocent was published in 1987, and I went from being an unpublished wannabe to a best-selling author, you know, the book business has been dynamic, and at that point, the threat, so-called, was from chain stores and book discounting, which were changing the nature of the way books have been sold. And you know, the fact of the book has continued to survive, and I know it will survive. But you know, the business contours keep changing.
When you took over, first of all, what is the Authors Guild?
The Authors Guild is the largest organization of professional authors in the United States. You have to have published a book in order to be eligible for membership. And it's acted since it was formed in the early part of the 20th century as the representative of authors and dealing both with publishers, booksellers, and also censorship issues.
When you took over in April of this year, you were told to see this Google thing through.
Right.
Make sure Amazon doesn't take over the book industry.
Right.
Find out why ebook royalty rates are so shamefully low, and keep the digital pirates at bay. Can you walk us through each of those issues?
Yeah, those are all very complicated subjects, but the Authors Guild sued Google a few years ago because Google was scanning the contents of 7 major university libraries, and we felt that was obviously a copyright violation because they were using the whole book, not just a little tiny smidgen of it, which the copyright laws might allow. And we reached a settlement with Google along with the American Publishers Association. And it basically concerns out-of-print books, that is, books that are no longer for sale and only would be available from used book outlets. So, and you know, we thought we were performing a great public service. There'll be the settlement provides that there'll be free terminals where these out-of-print books can be accessed in all public libraries, and you know, university subscription rates that'll make these books available to scholars at a very low cost. But you know, we've been besieged from all sides. I think most particularly by people who do not understand what the settlement actually provides. In copyright books that are not covered, in print in copyright books are not covered by this settlement. And yet people fear somehow that, you know, Google's getting the camel's nose under the tent. Judge Chin is currently weighing whether or not to approve this settlement. We'll all find out when he speaks.
He's been holding this for quite a while, hasn't he?
He has. He ascended to the Second Circuit, so he's got his hands full in a new job. He held on to the settlement, however, because it's just too complicated an issue to pass to the plate of another trial judge in the Federal District Court in New York.
Could that opinion come at any time?
Any moment. No, but nobody knows. Nobody knows what he's going to say. It's, you know, it's a complicated issue legally. Everybody agrees that the idea of making out-of-print books available online has got to be a plus. But we'll have to see what happens.
Now, Amazon. Make sure Amazon doesn't take over the book industry.
Yeah. This is another one where, you know, I have fairly strong feelings, and you know, there are a lot of really good people, book-centered people at Amazon, but it is a profit-making enterprise, sometimes in an almost ruthless way. Amazon, a few years ago, went to American publishers, said, we've got this new device, we're going to try to sell ebooks, but don't you worry about it. We're going to sell them at the same time we're selling your new hardcover titles, but we'll pay you the same thing. And that sounded great to publishers. You know, there's no physical cost on the ebook. You don't have to warehouse it. I believe that nobody realized that Amazon was planning to sell that ebook at a price, basically $10, that was far less than what Amazon was paying the publishers. From the distant perspective of Chicago, this looked to me like an effort, one, of course, to sell machines by making, you know, new books available at a very, very low price, but also to create barriers to entry to that market by telling potential competitors, not only do you have to develop a machine, you know, to compete with the Kindle, but you're also going to have to enter the marketplace and be willing to lose $4 to $5 every time you sell a new ebook. And the publishers realized that if this continued, if Amazon basically was just given free rein to develop the digital market, the ebook market, they would end up with a monopoly, and quite frankly, they would probably put the publishers out of business. They would go to best-selling authors and say, you don't need your publisher anymore. You know, 60% of your sales are now on ebook. We'll publish you. We'll buy a little paper publisher to pick up the remaining sales, and you know, forget about your publisher. So they would cherry pick. That was the fear anyway, and I can't blame this scenario on Amazon. They never announced plans to do it, but that was the fear.